it's time for Movie Friends with your hosts Michelle and Seth. We're talking film without pretension. We're finding cats that are unexpected. We'll watch a movie, film, or schmovie, and we want you to join our journey. So subscribe and share this podcast, or this might just be the last of the Movie Friends. We're movie friends. We want to be your movie friends.
Welcome to New Release Review, part of the Movie Friends podcast. My name is Seth. Today we're talking about Mickey 17 from 2025. Kind of from 2025. Put out in 2025, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. Directed by Bong Joon-ho, starring Robert Pattinson, Naomi Ackie, Stephen Yeun, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, and a bunch of other people. We will be discussing spoilers throughout the entire episode, so if you haven't seen Mickey 17, stop listening to this, go see the film, and then come back and finish. My guests for today are Hanna and Matt from Horror Hour with the Hannas, and this is a podcast that I was actually just a guest on. We talked about the film The Sadness, which is a very different film from this one, but it was great to be on your show. How are you guys? What's going on?
We're good. We're excited to be here. I'm very, very excited to talk about this movie.
Yep, and thank you for having us. We're pumped.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on. We just recorded the episode on The Sadness recently, and so when you guys hopped in the studio, I was like, didn't we just do this? Wasn't I just here?
Pretty much.
So you guys want to tell everybody, like, what's your show? What's the deal? What is Horror Hour with the Hannas?
Sure. So we're married, if that wasn't already clear. My last name is Hanna. Her first name is Hanna. So therefore we became Horror Hour with the Hannas, which is a podcast where we usually take about an hour to dive into a horror movie of our choosing. Sometimes we have guests. And what we like to do is get a little bit deeper with them, because I think so many horror movies can come across as maybe like a little surface level, a little superficial to a lot of people. And so we're trying to show you what else is there underneath the surface, if there is something there. I like to think of it as, think of your favorite English teacher from like high school, and that's us, but with horror movies.
And like, hopefully cooler.
Well, my English teachers were awesome.
I curse a lot more than my English teachers did.
There you go. Very cool. Very cool. What are some episodes you guys got coming out?
Yeah, so we have Hard Eyes coming out, which will be out this week. What have we just covered recently? We've done a bunch of new releases recently.
Yeah, so we already covered The Monkey, Companion, Presents. We're going to be covering Death of a Unicorn when it comes out. Another episode that is fun that we're putting out soon is we're going to talk about Saint Maud, but then use that as a jumping off point to kind of talk about mental health and horror. And we have a guest for that. That's someone else in addition to myself who works in the field. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice. All right. So yeah, this movie, this was kind of like floundering for a while. I don't want to say floundering. Let's say repressed, perhaps. Let's say was in limbo. I'm not sure, but I can't remember when this was originally supposed to come out. But this was like one of those movies where it was unclear if it was, going to just be canned by WB, and here it's finally here. This was something I looked forward to for a really long time. I really dig Bong Joon-ho. Memories of Murders, just one of the best police procedural films ever. What are your guys' experience with his films?
Obviously not an original take, but Parasite is an incredible, incredible film. Snowpiercer, also very fun, and I think it has some overlapping themes with Mickey 17 that I vibe with quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think those are the big two I've seen from him.
Those are the two that I remember offhand, but I really dig what I've seen from him so far. And we're also huge Robert Pattinson fans, so learning of the combination, I was like, yes, bitch, I am ready.
Well, and I had the same fear as you, because I thought this was going to go the Coyote versus Acme route and end up deleted off of a hard drive somewhere.
Right.
And I was concerned, and like David Zaslav, it's on site if I see him, like,
right.
I might be in his walls, but No, for real though. What is up? Warner Brothers used to be like, in my mind, like one of like the best. What do you call them? I mean, just studios. Like they kicked ass for how many years, and then all of a sudden it's like they're doing weird tax write-offs for and just deleting films, like multiple. I mean, Coyote versus Acme pisses me off because that movie feels like it was made in a lab just for me. I'm never going to see it. So I love court procedurals. I love Looney Tunes. I love cartoons mixed with live action. Like,
right.
I'm pissed still. So I'm happy at least we got this one.
I wonder how much things have changed versus just how much more conscious we are of things.
Yeah.
Because studios have been doing terrible things for like the entirety of, Hollywood history. And so maybe there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know. I mean, the whole deleting of movies, that idea does seem relatively new. I won't say there's no precedence for it because I can't speak to it because I haven't looked up, but it's an odd choice to not just sell a film.
Yeah.
Like to be like, okay, yeah, we made this. We're not going to distribute it here. Netflix, you can have it. Give us $50 million and we'll call it even.
Release it in January and don't do any marketing. At least just release it. Like it feels very anti-art to me. And I have to imagine it's a new thing.
Yeah.
Like it's a tax write-off thing. And there must be new laws regarding taxes that allow them to do that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird too, because it seems like everyone also has their own streaming service now.
Yeah.
So it's like, just put it on something. Who cares, man? Yes. But thankfully this film did come out. And it is exploring very similar ideas to the last several films that he made about, the difference in classes, the difference in workers versus the people who pay the workers, the conditions of the workers, in Parasite. It's a little less violent and extreme, but because it's more ground level realistic, I think it's a little bit more relatable. But he explores this in Okja, Snowpiercer, obviously, Parasite, and now Mickey 17 with this literally like dispensable workforce. So first reactions, how did you guys feel about Mickey 17?
I really liked it. I thought it was so much fun. I laughed out loud quite a few times. It was weird, but I like weird, so I was on board. And I love everyone that's in it. Like, this movie has some of my favorite performers, like, currently in film, so that helped.
I had a complete blast with this one. I feel like even throughout, like at first I was like, I'm here for it. It's a little weirdly paced and we're kind of all over the place. So I'm still enjoying, but I got to say the third act of this movie was absolutely like electric for me.
All right. So if you don't listen to this show very often, I often don't cover films that I don't like, because who wants to talk about a movie that they don't like? But I knew that I wanted to do this one. I was excited for it. And I got to say, I hated this movie.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I'm shocked.
And I take no joy or pleasure. And I also will say I would rewatch this one again, because oftentimes, and this is probably a stupid position to take, but when I don't like a movie, I usually just say, well, it's me. It's not the movie. We know that these are talented performers and talented filmmakers. This is based on a book. And so we know that this story thrived in at least one medium, right? And so what's more likely, that I'm wrong or that all of these other people and most people who have seen the movie are? You know what I mean? So yeah, but I really did not like this. I didn't like the experience. I didn't laugh. I didn't find it funny.
I could see if you didn't find it funny, then like it's not going to work. If it's not your sense of humor, this movie is not going to work for you.
Yeah, and I understood that it was supposed to be fun. Like I wasn't like, wait, why is this weird, odd thing happening here? What about my straightforward sci-fi? Like, I just was like, this isn't funny. This isn't good. Like, Now, I
Damn.
will say, I know, and I feel bad.
No,
Bong
it's
Joon-ho,
fine.
I'm sorry.
I respect your opinion. I'm hoping maybe our discussion will make
I
you
am
appreciate it a little bit more. But.
I am hoping that we can do horror hour with the Hannas here, and you change my mind. But yeah, what I will say is I loved everything with Mickey 17, Mickey 18, and I wanted there to be way more of that. And we just kept doing these little side things, you know, the whole dinner where he's like eating and then I was just like, can we get back to these two dudes? Like, that's kind of what I want to see. And that was the part that was more interesting to me. And I feel like we barely scratched the surface of that. Anyway, so that's kind of my initial thoughts. But while we're talking about him, Robert Pattinson as Mickey Barnes, who then turns into Mickey 1 through 18. How did you guys feel about his performance in this?
As I said, we adore Robert Pattinson. We have a photo of him on our wall.
We're looking at him right now.
Right above where we're recording.
I'm not kidding.
It's just like a bunch of photos from places we've traveled to and like a map and then Robert Pattinson.
Nice.
He's smiling. There's some flowers behind him.
Yeah, it's one of our weird things that we've just had in our house for years, and we just love when people comment on it. So I would say, like, going into this, I definitely have the bias of I love him, and he lived up to all expectations for me because I just thought that he played both of the characters so well. I think he's so funny, and I was definitely nervous with his weird little higher pitched New Yorkie accent. I was like really nervous for it, but I thought it was so funny. Like, it worked for me, and I did like the difference between how he played Mickey 17 versus 18, since they are very different in personality. I liked how he played off of himself.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with everything Hanna just said. I mean, I'm a big Pattinson fan. I think he's absurdly talented, and I love the way he like swings for the fences with most of his performances. And I think he like connects most of the time, even when he's doing this silly little voice, like the voice played and acting across of him himself, like you wouldn't have known, because he just has that it factor. It's hard to put into words, but when you see it, you know.
Did you like him?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was great. I loved this voice. I like how he's committing to doing weird voices. I saw a brief interview with him recently before watching the movie. Before I watch something, I try to steer clear of anything related to the film. If you tell me that Bong Joon-ho has a new movie coming out, I don't need to see a preview. You know what I mean? I'm going to see that film. If you tell me Robert Pattinson is in a new movie, more than likely I'm going to check it out. And so I don't like to bring like anything with me into the experience. But I did see a little snippet of him where he realized, he was like, I didn't realize that I was doing Steve Buscemi in Fargo. And that was the voice that I was doing.
I didn't even think about that. That's funny.
Yeah. And so I knew that. And then as soon as he started talking, I was like, that is 100% Steve Buscemi. And if you want to get that specific, yeah, sure. Sounds like Steve Buscemi in Fargo. So yeah, I love that. And I like how Pattinson, you know, he's blessed with the leading man looks and the character actor heart. And so you do get him in things like Tenet. And I really disliked Tenet a lot.
Oh, sad.
Retweet.
Yeah. I liked Tenet, but
but I thought that him and John David Washington were great in that together. Like their chemistry together, the dynamic between the two different personality types, I thought were really great. And then, you know, you can put him into Good Time, which is just one of the most stressed out times I've ever had. The Lighthouse, even his role in The King, which was a movie that kind of just came and went, the Timothée Chalamet movie from a few years back. He's doing a weird French guy voice in that movie. It's so odd and funny, but it works. Like, at least it worked for me. So yeah, I like everything that he's doing in here, and I just wanted like so much more I wanted to see the other Mickeys for longer. I would have liked to have seen him play all these different personalities. You know, they make mention of number 3 being Cleany and number 5 being whatever. And I kind of just wish that was the movie. And it's not what it is.
See, I understand your point. I think the story though that Bong Joon-ho wanted to tell was the one of like 17 and 18 finding like strength in each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like they learned things from each other, where 17 was kind of like this soft like coward in some ways, but he's able to learn to be more of his whole Mickey Barnes self from 18. So like for me, I really like that story. And I also think Mickey 18 learns to care about other people because of 17. So like that completely played for me.
I also think having the two of them is a really interesting way to show like how the capitalist system makes us turn against each other. While the top can continue doing whatever the heck they want, making their tail sauces as Tony Collette does, and like being weird. Versus the bottom is like infighting, even when it's in this case kind of with himself.
That's by design, right? Like that's by design of the controlling class.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a really cool vehicle for that messaging, and that's kind of how I saw that. Like that was just a plot device and a vehicle to get that messaging across. But I do agree that I thought it would be more about the various Mickeys over time. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that we were going to get this whole side story with the creepers and all that.
I love the creepers,
but I also kind of love them. So I don't care.
I hated the creepers.
No,
they were so cute.
Well, you're not going to like the movie if you don't like the creepers. It's over already. You know,
I just pretty much anything that you're going to say, I'm going to say like, oh, I really didn't care for it. Yeah, but I know it's a bummer. It's a bummer.
I just want to say about the messaging between those two, though. If you look at the whole like class warfare angle, the like final message of this movie is like we have to learn the non-ruling class basically has to learn from each other and embrace each other's maybe not differences, but like we have to be kind to each other and like find love for each other because we are not the enemy here, right? In this, at least in this situation, it's like those that are pitting us against each other are the enemy. So I don't know. I kind of like it almost feels like the thesis of it is like we need to figure out how to love our neighbors again.
Well, I also think there's this added element of like Mickey 17 is really passive and just kind of like going with the flow, doesn't really care what the system around him is doing as much. He's just trying to do his thing. Versus Mickey 18 is, quite the opposite, willing to take like very aggressive immediate action in a way that's not necessarily productive. So I think it's about finding like the happy medium there.
I didn't even see that either. That hits much higher politically than I thought. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's rules that are set in place by the ruling class because they're the ones who did bad stuff with it in the first place. So we get this little side story about this, like, is it a scientist or a tech billionaire, whatever, who has cloned himself and made 2 others. And so there's 3 of them running around. And basically, they're using the technology and they're using the power to do, like, really bad stuff. And so because that's where they're coming from, because that's their mindset, they say, well, that's what everyone else would use it for. And so we need to have these really, really strict rules on how this can work to avoid this thing, where it's like no one was thinking that. Yeah. No one was waiting for the day to clone themselves so that they could go out and murder people and experience like murdering people. I'm a big believer that, the rules are for the few, they're not for the many. And sometimes we're like, why is this the way that it is? It's because we're not criminals and we don't sit around thinking, oh, I'm going to steal someone's identity or, oh, I'm going to do this bad thing. And so it's for the few people who would do those things that the rules need to exist. So I thought that was also interesting because you get the feeling with Mickey, he's on the run. He takes this job out of desperation, to save his life. He's not looking to be cloned for any devious reasons. And I read a quick little interview with Pattinson today where he says, he's like, Mickey would have been fine killing himself for the company and for the cause, as long as he gets to keep going home to Nasha each day. Like, he's happy just doing, you know what I mean? Like, he's not looking at this ultimate power, quote unquote, to do anything other than his job. So I thought that was good. And I want to be very, very crystal clear here that I don't disagree with the messaging of the movie. And almost every review that I've read has said, yes, the messaging is hitting you over the head with the most blunt, clear hammer that has ever existed, but that's okay. And I just want to say, I don't think that's okay. We can still have subtlety, and we can still, but it just, like, I was just in the theater and I was like, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Tell me a story. Tell me a story.
This cracks me up because a friend of mine saw it and texted me, and he was like, basically felt that it was too subtle. So
no way.
And I was like,
red hats.
Oh yeah, that I would say that part's not subtle, but I meant like, I think some of like the 1817 idea of like these two different ideologies that have to work together, or even like that, I think was at least somewhat subtle. But you're right. Yeah, the red hats, the impersonation that Mark Ruffalo is doing is not subtle. It worked for me, but you know, like,
yeah.
I need to know which friend this is.
Talk about it off podcast,
off the pod, because I'm worried. But
we will not put anyone on blast.
Yeah, I think maybe the nuances of it are more subtle, but I do think the larger picture is pretty on the surface. But I mean, like, yeah, the Mark Ruffalo of it all is pretty right there. Like, the whole time you're like, this man's an asshole.
I have to interrupt because I think there's a huge difference, though, because you pointed out the red hats thing. In most of the movies that try to do the same thing, it comes down to red hats bad, these people bad, remove them. This one, I think, has the nuanced idea of that these people have been brainwashed. They have been pitted against other people, and they don't. It's not trying to remove responsibility from them, but it's more like it's not entirely their fault that they're the way that they are. And that kind of comes down to the idea of that there is groundwork that we need to do, or like I said, Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 do, and Nasha and everyone, to kind of reform and bring them back in. And I will give this movie credit that I think it's easier to just go red hat bad versus like we still need to find a way to like deprogram, which this movie, at least in my mind, touches on. So just needs to be said.
I did see an interview where Bong Joon-ho was on Colbert, and Colbert says, he's like, yeah, so, you know, what's this movie? You know, he basically makes a joke like, what's the movie really about? Because, you know, they're wearing red hats or whatever. And he says, he's like, well, we've screened this film in different countries all around the world. And he says, wherever we are, people project their fascist leader onto Mark Ruffalo. He's like, so we found that to be very, very interesting. And he doesn't come out and say like, no, this isn't like a Trump impersonation. But I think that there's more to it than that. And I'm again, I want to be like really clear. I'm not trying to say like this is a bad message or even a bad way to deliver the message. It's just like, who is this movie for? And when you remove any kind of subtlety and you just say like, this is a mockery, well, then you're not educating or revealing something to the other half of your audience. You're just alienating them, which they should be. We're facing fascism here, and it should be mocked. But again, for me, I was just like, I get it. Like, is there something else? Is there something beyond?
I should specify one thing, though. I also, when I was talking about like the other people in there, I was not referring to like Ruffalo and Toni Collette. Like, this movie killed them. And like, that is kind of, I also think the message is like, kill the fascist. And like, kill the fascist. I was more, I think the followers were, it was like I think they were trying to like say like, play to humanity.
There's something about that with the followers being so, you know, brainwashed and willing to do whatever. The movie shows Earth in the future as like being under dust storms and like it's a crappy place, and people are more willing to go off and like, you know, try to colonize a new planet than fix the old one, which is something that we're literally in the beginning stages of now in this world, which is insane. But like they accept him on this voyage immediately because he signs up to be an expendable person. And I was like, none of this dude's followers were like, I'll be an expendable. You know what I mean? Like that seemed like this isn't a plot hole show, but I was just like, he's the only one.
They read the fine print, apparently.
Yeah. And then I, again, not to talk about a plot hole, but something I didn't understand, and maybe you guys could help me. In the book, they explain that like he wears a helmet kind of at all times that like I guess transmits his memories to the memory bank, and that's how he like remembers his deaths. But in this one, he says he has to go in every week to like re-upload them. And throughout the movie, everyone's asking him like, what is it like to die? What is it like to die? And it's not until the end that he kind of reveals it. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be really like poignant. And he's just like, it sucks. I was like, why didn't you say that all the other times? But then I was thinking, I was like, how does he know? How does he know?
So you're totally right. That was a plot hole, but I'm going to ignore it.
Sure.
Because I thought about that too. Yeah. And I'm just like, nope, I'm not worried.
I noticed that very early on. And I was like, okay, sure. We'll just go with it. But I think I'm like trying to remember the specific way he describes it.
He says it's like weekly he gets an upload.
No, I mean how he describes dying. Because I think there's something you could say about like he would know what it's like to be a whole new version of himself, like, and to be, I guess, gone for a bit. But yeah, he couldn't actually tell us what it's like to die individual times if the memory isn't changed. So I feel like you could kind of answer it, but yeah, I think
he says that he's scared every time.
Okay, yeah, then I guess a lingering afraid of dying because it could happen at any point. Who's to say? Right. But even if that is a little bit of a plot hole, I was having so much fun that I was willing to overlook it.
And I'll compliment this. This is the best kind of sci-fi where they just go, this is the thing. This is it. Oh, yeah. I don't need anything else. Yeah. You don't need to explain to me how it works. It's a 3D human printer, a memory bank, and a brick. I get it. You know,
Yep.
Perfect.
I agree. And I can't stand when we have to spend half the movie with exposition and explanation. And then I also can't stand the only thing that you got out of it was how it worked. Who cares? Yeah. It's a time traveling car. You know, you get to 88 miles an hour and you go back in time. Who cares? Okay. I don't need any more explanation.
I can buy that. The more you try to explain, the more I'm going to question things. If you just say, this is it, I'm good. I got you. You know?
Yeah. And I did like how, you know, one of the reasons why I love science fiction, it's my favorite genre by far, is because it leaves so much room for discussions on philosophy and religion. And this movie goes into it like a little bit, not a ton, but I tried to pull out of that eventual revelation of what dying is like for him. And I just attribute it to the class struggle thing that, like, you know, there's not some type of glory in suffering. There's not some type of glory in, you know, giving yourself to the party and giving yourself to the machine. I mean, certainly, look, we all have to work and you can be proud of your job and you can, but the idea of like, you know, the sacrifices that he continues to make is, you know, when you look at it, he's like, no, I'm scared. Like you know, I mean, even Jesus on the way to the cross was like, or no, as he's on the cross, right? He's like, why have you forsaken me? Like, I don't want to do this kind of a thing. And so I think we can kind of make martyrs of whoever we want, and we can hold them up and be like, what a glorious death, or what a glorious sacrifice. And then if you ask them, they'd be like, I didn't want to do it. This sucks. So Pattinson is great. I think we can agree on that. I don't love what he does, or I don't love what they do with him, but I wish he was in this more. So Naomi Ackie plays Nasha. And I think that this was, I saw her in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, unfortunately.
We also dislike that movie.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
lore about us, you can cut this out. We're both huge fans of The Last Jedi. So
Oh, me too. That's my favorite Star Wars movie. Yeah.
It's got to be a top 2 or top 3 for me. And people think I'm crazy and they get really upset. And I was like, you just don't know ball. Like,
no, I agree. I mean, my feeling on Star Wars is I never need to talk about it again.
That's
I
let's
love
do it anyway.
Dearly, but it's like it's settled math in my world.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So it's like, okay, yeah, these movies are great. They're fun. They're for children. I lived through 2 of the series and I had a good time. Let's talk about other things now. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
And to that point, I don't remember her in that movie at all because I've blacked out that movie entirely.
Yes, The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did too, almost instantly.
How you guys felt about Rise of Skywalker? Just imagine 20% of that was me sitting through Mickey 17.
Oh, that's too much.
No, but come on. The Rise of Skywalker is a much more of a mess of a movie than Mickey 17 is.
Such dog shit.
I would say 80% more of a mess.
80% more of a mess. Okay, we'll take it.
Yep. I didn't see Blink twice in theaters, which was a bummer because people were really divisive on it. And they were like, this is the worst. It's horrible. It's offensive. And I was like, I really need to see this now, I think. So this was my first time seeing her, but I thought she was great. Too. Like, yeah, I thought she had a really good presence, very magnetic. I guess she's a cop. I think is it like a Judge Dredd situation? She's judge, jury, and executioner in this world.
I also was kind of thinking, and I was like, oh, what are we doing here? Is she like, are we gonna have a commentary on police? And I think they kind of just changed it into like that. Like, even though she's a cop on this thing, she can still be class conscious and side with the people. And like, is that commentary that we're gonna need that if this revolution type thing ever is going to go down? I don't know. I also will say I thought that she was such a surprise for me because based on the trailers, you think Mickey's going to be kind of a loser. So when you find out that like Mickey's a ladies' man, I was like, interesting. It gives us a whole other idea. I call him a ladies' man. Well, he clearly was. The women were all over him in this movie.
Yeah. There were at least 2 who were very interested in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen her in anything either. Matt wouldn't let us cover Blink twice on the podcast.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't let us. No one cared about it. I'm sorry.
I think that's actually not true. However, yeah, so I'd never seen her in anything, and I quite liked her. I thought she very much like has command of the screen and every scene that she's in. So I would love to see her in other things, and I feel like she's definitely got a good career ahead of her.
So then, kind of like Challengers, a lot of the 2 dudes and her were used like in the marketing, and that was just not what the movie was about. Also, a lot like Challengers. Once we got to that part, and Anna Maria Vartolomei, she's the other person who's interested in Mickey. That's when I was like, okay, now we're getting going. We've set up that there can't be duplicates, that we can't have this, that if that happens, we're going to delete them from all history and whatever. And so I was like, yeah, let's get into how this will work. And then I felt like it just kind of fizzled from there. I guess in the book, it goes way, way more into that kind of threesome dynamic and then bringing in another person. So I don't really have a question there, but I guess I would just say like, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. And then I was like, oh no, it's not.
I would definitely be interested in reading the book. I've already like put it on my TBR. And that is something that I like the idea of. Like, I would like to see how they show that. And I also thought my expectation was that we would get more of that once it started happening. I was kind of excited to see where it would go as well. But I think ultimately, like I said, I just feel like some of the things that we thought we were going to get is just not the story that Bong Joon-ho wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And again, like, I really think he just used this as a vehicle to tell the stories that he's interested in, which is the class consciousness and the capitalist system, bad, all of that jazz.
He also very much wanted to tell that's the story of Mickey 17. And I do think those scenes are not like useless. They still completely flesh out, I think, Mickey 17 as a character. Like, he has the opportunity to be with this other woman. He's like, no, like Nasha's the woman for him, right? Like, that's, he does love her. And I also think it helps kind of pit him and Mickey 18 against each other a little bit, but kind of shows that like Nasha loves Mickey Barnes, not just 17 or 18. She like loves both. I mean, it helps that she's on whatever their oxy was, their green.
Yes, that was an
oxy.
interesting. That was a very interesting little wrinkle there. Yeah,
but I think like while I agree, you kind of think it's going to go one way. It's not like the scenes don't serve a purpose still. At least for me, like I really felt that they were trying to flesh out like who Mickey is.
Yeah, and I think it's also funny to think about, like, we very much thought that they were going to try and hide it longer, and then once it's not hidden that long, then you're like, okay, how are they going to be punished for this? Like, maybe the next plot point is them trying to escape punishment or hide or whatever. But it's really just that, like, Mark Ruffalo's character is such an asshole that he's not even about following like their law. He still just wants to use him and like kill him just for a purpose.
He's short-sighted completely. He can't see 2 feet in front of his own face, and that's obviously on purpose as well. But
you know, Hannah, as you said, like, oh, we thought that they were going to try to hide it longer. I just realized like what I wanted the movie to be, and so that's the first step to movie hating recovery, I think, is admitting that you have a problem. and my problem was that I wanted this to be Bong Joon-ho's The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I wanted this to be the two of them, you know, rough around the edges, hard relationship, but they're conspiring together and swapping out. And I wanted that more to be what the movie was. And then maybe even you print a third guy or a fourth guy and it just gets really, you know, zany crazy. And that's not what it was. So thank you. Yes, I can see that now. So talking about Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette, I do think are a package deal in this movie. I really appreciated how they're almost twin snake characters. You really see. So Mark Ruffalo is playing Kenneth Marshall, and Toni Collette is playing Yifa, which I don't know that I even remember her name being said in the movie, but I was just like, that's Toni Collette. That's the best actress of all time up there.
Facts.
But they're very, very dependent on each other. And I liked how just right in front of a room full of people, they would just kind of like curl into each other and he would be going to her for guidance or advice or acceptance or, you know, whatever. And that in itself is not bad. But just that he has no control. It's equivalent to like, you know, if you had a politician character who every time someone disagrees with him, he just like starts sucking his thumb frantically in front of everybody. You know, she is very clearly his comfort and safe place, and he can't like wait for the moment to be over to like just fold into her. And I liked that. I liked how foolish they make kind of both of them seem. And then, yeah, her obsession with the tail sauces. I was like, I would eat all of these tail sauces. But what do you guys think about Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette?
I love both of them as actors. So again, I'm going in with this bias of like, I love them. And I still love them. I thought that his Trump impersonation I know, like, obviously they weren't writing this to be a specific person, but, like, let's be real, Mark Ruffalo lives in the United States. He's very political. He posts on his socials all the time. He was doing a Trump impersonation, and I thought it was so funny. There was like a couple lines that he said specifically. I think it was when he was talking about making his speech,
his propaganda video,
his like propaganda video, and how it was going to be the most magnificent speech, and like the way he said it, just the delivery was so good. I love that, and I also just like love Toni Collette. Her performance was kind of giving the level of like dipshit almost that she's doing in Knives Out. Like I feel like they're kind of similar performances or characters, which I love. So I don't really have any criticism of them.
I'll talk about them. Let me get like real communist on you guys.
Okay.
So like I think this is such a good portrayal of like a fascist leader in the fact that they are both really stupid and like barely human. And that's like what we get from these two. It's like they're not that smart. I mean, clearly she's a little more than he is. But like when I talk about them not being human, it's like it comes down to the fact that like she's just in it to make sauce. She just sees everybody as fucking sauce. Yeah. Like, and I don't know that. I mean, to me, that's the message that's coming across is like, yeah, fascists like bourgeoisie are inhuman, and in many ways, I think you can look at plenty of completely out of touch billionaires, and they really are beyond that, like being human at that point. And like, I don't want to like, I know it sounds a little extreme saying that, but I don't know how else to read these performances other than that. And I think it works. I don't know. Like he is so dumb and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, if you stopped and made a list of 10 things that ground a person to reality, perhaps doing the dishes would be on there, perhaps, I don't know, whatever that is for you. Things that keep you grounded, things that keep you, whatever you want to call it, humble, tied to reality, tied to your own body and your own environment. How many of those things do billionaires encounter every day? And so what are the things that tie them to reality, and what are the things that ground them? None of those things would be on our lists. And so I'm very, 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 very pro never take away a person's humanity, no matter how much you disagree with them. Because as soon as you can justify saying this isn't a person, you can justify doing a lot of horrible, terrible things to them. So you have to, that always has to be like the ground level. It's just, they are a bad person. They are a person, but they're really bad. Yeah. And that's also kind of like, I think something that we can do is we distance ourselves from them because we want to believe we would never be like them. But unfortunately, the power that some people find themselves with changes you. Like you guys mentioned, the people who are just brainwashed. We're all capable of being brainwashed. We want to think that we, aren't, but very smart people join cults and do crazy things. So I like how, yes, I mean, and again, this is similar to how he's portrayed people in the other movies. When in Parasite, we get that torrential rain and all of these people literally like lose their lives and lose their homes. And I believe it's the wife says like, oh, we really needed that rain. That's because she's just on a level that's not connected to any of their lives.
I will say in Parasite, I think he has, because it's more of a grounded film, he does have some more empathy for like the rich family. Some, I'm not saying like full, where I think in this one, it very much is, he's like, I'm going to make a cartoonish fascist that needs to like die. And it is, yeah.
And I think that they have to be like, Mark Ruffalo has to be a caricature and a monster because we are presented in this film with actual monsters and aliens. And they're doing the thing of like, oh, these aliens that you think are bad, they're not bad. And I love that. You know, I read Ender's Game as a kid, the whole series, actually, fantastic books. But again, I'm like, I've seen this. I watched ET.
Yeah,
I watched
it was Starship Troopers again.
Right. It's everything. We've done this 1,000 times.
And that's the thing is, I guess I agree. It's just like when you are a good filmmaker, which he is, you're able to like breathe something new into it. And I'm going to be honest, the creepers were cute as fuck. I loved them. I was like, the second they saved him, I was like, this is awesome. I love these stupid little guys. Once they're running around at the end and pretending they're going to blow everyone's brains up.
I also just need to acknowledge Robert Pattinson imitating them every time he tried to do the imitation of them talking. I laughed out loud every single time.
I mean, filmmaking,
that was very funny.
Filmmaking is manipulation. Like, it just is. Absolutely, and he manipulated the shit out of me and I'm here for it. Yes, like I was completely endeared to them, and that was okay. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's just, I think Bong Joon-ho is really good at this stuff. And I think a lesser filmmaker, this wouldn't work for me, but it just like, it does because of him. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's good looking too. So
yeah, I can't stand when people are like, oh, movie was so manipulative. Oh,
that's the whole point.
They're just trying to manipulate your emotions. I'm like, what do you want them to do? That's what they're doing. Of course it is. You think when you sit down in a theater and, you know, the opening of 20th Century Fox fanfare comes out, they're not trying to elicit an emotional response of excitement from you? Like, come on. It's very silly. But yeah, the creepers, them like pretending that they could blow everybody up, I thought that was really funny. And then Pattinson, because I wasn't sure if Pattinson could actually talk to them, and so every time it happened, I was like, wait, is this going somewhere? And I did find that very, very funny. The fact that they just like really quickly built a communicator or translator or whatever, that's like, it's like, okay, it's sci-fi, just kind of let it go and who cares. But yeah, and then you know, Mickey 18 blows up him and the dude, and then we blow up the 3D printer and they live on an ice planet now. And I'm like, okay. But again, that was me. I don't know. How did you guys feel about the ending?
I mean, I had no issue with it. I kind of felt like they earned the happy ending with this. Like, for me, I like Mickey getting his happy ending. He'd sacrificed so much throughout. And I do think movies can kind of get away with that when they make their characters suffer so much. You're more willing to be like, and they live happily ever after, because you're just ready for that. I think it's cool that they go and like reform whatever government they have, with like Nasha being the new, you know, prime minister, whatever she is there. And I don't know. I think he's kind of just saying like, we can, maybe it is a call to action. Like, we can rebuild a better world. I'd prefer to do it on this planet personally, but because going to space is not very good for you. But like, and that makes me, I like that call to action. I like that hope that he has, is like, we can fix this. Like, we can deprogram people. We can pull people out of it. And it might, you know, take killing a few fascists. I don't know. But Mickey 18 was there to do it for them.
That's right.
But I guess, or maybe he's asking for more Mickey 18s. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the end was a little, I mean, like, I think it was a little corny, but I also think, like Matt said, that at least Mickey and Nasha have earned that. I don't know if I would say that's a realistic ending for them, but it's a comedy and it's a sci-fi. It doesn't have to be realistic, so who cares? I do like that Mickey 17, I feel like he has learned and grown as a character from being around Mickey 18 and from being around the creeper. So I do like that it kind of ends with this character development too.
What would Mickey 18 do? You know? And I think that's also still a call to action to the audience, is it's like, stand up to this bullshit, right? Do what you can.
Like, it's a better world that they have now because they stood up to this asshole.
Yeah.
Don't just, you know, be content to be an expendable.
Right. Yeah. Quick shout out to Patsy Farron as Dorothy. She played the scientist with the big glasses, and I just from the moment I saw her, I was like, I love this character. I love this person. I don't know who this is, and I was like, please be the main character of this movie. And she wasn't, and I was like, oh, I need more of this person, because she definitely had a better ear to the ground for what was happening than the rest of the scientists, who were all just sycophants for Mark Ruffalo's character. And yes, and then we didn't mention him, but Stephen Yeun is in this. They were going to start a cookie store that went south, and that's why they flee. Yeah. I thought that there would be a little bit more, and I think that this is probably the more subtle part of what he's saying. You know, the guy that they're running away from has a fascination with filming the deaths of the people who owe money to him. And then later in the movie, anytime something bad is happening, one or two guys are always like filming it. And I thought that that was interesting, and maybe it just didn't need to be commented or explored on, but I was like, is this going to come around in some way? Since we kind of inserted it into the beginning and it's crossing characters, but I guess its existence is commentary enough, because any day you can go on the internet and see videos of the most horrible things you've ever seen, and it's just people filming them as they're happening instead of helping. So
that's what I was gonna say. That, and then also just like the system itself and the people who run that system, they don't care if we're suffering, and if anything, they enjoy it if it means that they're getting what they want out of it.
I want to know how the Macron
guy ended up there.
Well, no, like how did it go so south so fast?
Because they're really dumb.
Like, how much money did they need to start this
macaroon business?
It's like, even funny though. Mickey and Steven Yeun's character, I can't even remember his name, are dumb, and yet Mark Ruffalo's character is still dumber,
right.
And in power, and like that's commentary on itself. Like, we're all a little dumb, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's like, I maybe that's part of it. Is like, they were one decent business decision away from having as much power as him.
Probably well, I also think part of it too is that Mickey is just maybe
complacent,
just like innocent or complacent, and he let this other guy take advantage of him because he just like expected people, especially someone he was friends with, to be better, but people just aren't necessarily
well
better.
It is like the most innocent way to endear Mickey to us, for like, okay, we need to explain why this guy is running off planet. So is he a criminal? Did he do something bad? And they're like, no. He wanted to start a cookie business with his friend and they borrowed money from the wrong guy. And that's it. And so you're like, oh, so he's like a baby, basically. Like he hasn't done anything wrong. Okay, sure, whatever. And then, he doesn't read the fine print. He foolishly signs up. And so you're very much endeared to him. But I did think that was pretty funny.
And you tell me you didn't think this movie was very funny, but
I didn't. Well, I didn't laugh. I will say that. Okay. I went to see this movie. I was like so bored and just like not. I was like squirming in my seat. I actually got up and like moved seats at one point because I was like, I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep. It was not. I have never walked out of a movie in my life. I'm not going to say that I wanted to walk out of Mickey 17. That's ridiculous. But I was like, dear God, let this end. Like, I'm done.
I do agree. I thought the pacing through like the first half was a little odd, but I was just like still so there for like Robert Pattinson as a character and just like what was going on here that I was okay with it. And I felt that it came together in a very cohesive way near the end that like had me excited again. But I'm interested about you not finding it that funny, because like I like laughed out loud a lot during this. And I think maybe it's the style of humor works for me and the way I would describe it is I love when a movie's like very absurd and all the situations are really silly and out there, but all the actors are fully committed to being as serious and playing it as straight as possible.
Sure.
I find a lot of humor in that. I really like sincerity in my movies in general. And so for this one to, like I said, have that silly premise, but very sincere performances, it like gets me.
I'm right there. I mean, you know, two of my favorite comedies of all time is Clifford and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which are two movies with insane, ridiculous premises and characters that no one ever comments on and says, why is this dude wearing a suit that's 3 sizes too small for him? Or why is Martin Short, a 40-year-old, playing a 10-year-old boy? Like, so yeah,
it just didn't work for you then in this one. Did you find the movie to be like sincere in that, or was that like the issue, or did it wasn't funny for you?
Like I said, I could tell. I knew that this was supposed to be funny. I just didn't find like again, I didn't like the creepers. So anything involving them, I was like, okay.
You're kind of, I will say, if you don't like the creepers, this is going to be a hard sell.
Yeah. And then, you know, Pattinson stuff, funny. Ruffalo stuff, I didn't really find that funny. There was one moment where Pattinson does something and he farts quite loudly, I believe. I thought that was funny. That. Yeah. It's either like during a fight or he's like running and jumping or something. I thought that was funny, but but yeah. Well, anyway, that's Mickey 17. I'm glad that you guys really enjoyed it, because I was like, oh God, if they hate it, this is gonna be a tough episode. But yeah.
Well, thank you for having us. We did enjoy it. I enjoyed talking about it. I hope maybe you like it a little bit more after we talked about it, but if not.
Yes. Well, Hanna opened my eyes to the Parent Trap that I wanted, you know, the Pattinson trap, I guess I'll call it.
Truly any movie with like twin anything. Yes. I'm like, bring me the Parent Trap.
Yes, you need hijinks. I wanted more twin hijinks and I didn't get it.
You get a little bit when they had to go out and cut the tails and the two of them immediately just walk off and don't do it at all. I was like, this is what I'm here for.
I kind of like the hijinks of them going back and forth with Steven Yeun's characters, just like hanging from the trash thing. And they're both going back and forth. One's trying to save him and one's trying to push him in, and they're fighting. That brought me joy. Some hijinks, not enough.
So where can people find you guys online?
You can listen to our episodes wherever you can find podcasts. We're also on YouTube, where we post full episodes, and we also post some short content as well. Then you can find us on Instagram or TikTok at Horror Hour at the Hannas, and we're on Blue Sky at Horror Hour. And we post more on Blue Sky just about like anything we're watching. It's less horror focused. So like we watched Sing Sing yesterday.
And Raising Arizona. We got 2 movies in one day. So
we just did Raising Arizona today.
I know.
I sent him that, and I was like, wow, this timing is incredible.
And neither of us had seen it, and I got to say, I kind of loved it. So
it's incredible. Yeah. It's an amazing movie. Yeah.
And we watched it with my mom, who has seen it before, and she was like, you got to watch this. And it tickled me. I mean, that grocery store scene is just ridiculous. I love it.
Oh, yes. Well, hey, let us know what you thought about Mickey 17. Send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Please yell at me. Let me know how I'm wrong. Let me know how this will be a future classic, and I will be proven wrong as time goes on. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional episodes, our patron-only Discord. You get to vote on upcoming episodes and monthly themes. There's a bunch of other stuff. It's a little ridiculous. Patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. And if you haven't yet, please give us a rating and a review. If this is the only episode that you've listened to, I promise that I'm not a hater who picks apart science fiction movies that are designed to be funny. So maybe if you haven't rated us and you've only listened to this episode, maybe don't rate us yet. I don't know. Maybe it would be a bad one. So hold off. Listen to our episode on Raising Arizona. That's funnier. Anyway, hey, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. And you're right. I got bad reviews because I was mean about a movie. So wait till tell them to. Like, actually, like, I'm pretty sure we got like 2 1-star reviews because I talked shit on As Above, So Below or something like that.
Oh, no. Yeah. Normally, you know, like I said, we pick the movies that we're going to talk about, and so I'm not like I want to take this movie down a peg.
Sometimes you have to, though.
We hadn't seen it before, so we were like, yeah, this is a reason to watch it. We'll cover it. And then we watched it and we were like, shit.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Be sure to follow Matt and Hannah wherever you can. Check out the show. And yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. Till next time, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Theme music by Jean Marie Vargas. Visit us at our website, moviefriendspodcast.com, and please subscribe and rate our show wherever you are listening. You can support Movie Friends at patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. Thanks for listening.